All right, so my color wheel is there. There's 12 separate colors. We kind of noticed that the greens on this are a little muddy, and that's because there has been that cool yellow and the warm blue. So each color can be more towards, let's say this blue can be more towards the blue violet, or it could be more towards the green. It is more towards the blue violet. It's a little bit warmer. So each color we can talk about being warmer or cooler. Transitions. This is what I have to impart to you. You either make your life very difficult and ignore it, or you can make your life easier and use these techniques. You're going to paint 3 different transitions. These are each about 1 inch by 5 inch boxes. Yes, I want you to paint that large. The kind of the sweet spot with transitions is not too little paint, but not too much paint. So that's what we're practicing. The other thing is that we need to kind of take baby steps in between the 2 ends of the spectrum. So if I'm going to do white to red, I'm not just going to put white on the paper and then red next to it and then hope and pray and cross my fingers and toes and just make it magically blend. I'm going to have to mix some tints or steps in between white and red. So I have white. I'm going to, on my palette, palettes are for mixing. They're not just for holding your paint. You don't do all the mixing on your paper. You do it on your palette. So I'm going to take 3 different piles of white off to the side. One has a lot of white, one has a little white, and one has like almost no white. And I'm going to add a little bit of red and mix it all up on that first pile to make a very light tint, which with red happens to be pink. So I'm pre-mixing on my palette. There is one tint. I'm going to make another tint. It's going to have more red in it. It is going to be a little darker or have less white. There's my second tint. And then I'm going to have my last tint, which is going to look a whole lot like red. So I'm going to be taking these baby steps, these pre-mixed steps from white, and it's going to have more red, more red, more red, all red. So it's on my paper, my palette paper, and I'm going to start my transition. So in order for the transition to blend, you need to have wet paint on your paper and move from your light color to your dark color. So I will paint just pure white. I know it says it's white paper. I'm going to paint just pure white. I'm using my angle shader brush. You can use whichever brush you want, but I'm looking at the size of this box, and it looks like the angle shader. I don't want so much paint on there that I see big blobs. So I painted white. Now I'm painting my next color, which is a tint. I paint it next to it. I'm going to zoom in. Hopefully you can see the magic. Before it dries, before the white paint dries, I'm going to paint back on top of the white paint. And as I do, it's going to start to blend together. And it blended. Yay! So I don't rinse off my brush. I'm just going to grab the next tint of red. I'm going to paint it. It's not touching. I'm going to paint back on top of that light tint, and when I paint back on top of it, because it is still wet, it will blend together. Oh no, it's not blending right there. I wipe off my brush, and I just blend the wet paint. Then I'm going to go to my next tint, paint back on top of the lighter color, and then I'm going to just red. So when your transition is finished, It is going to go from pure white, tint, 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 pure red. If it dries before I paint back on top and try to blend, I've got to get the lighter color and try to get it to blend. You don't want the red to take over. You want it to gradually fade from white to tint to red. So that's a transition. Then I'm going to do that same thing from a color to black. So I'm going to take red and I'm going to mix up some different shades of black, shades of that color, fade to black. Then I'm going to pick one warm color and one cool color. So I have red and I have blue here. I'm going to make some mixtures between red and blue. So red plus a little blue, which is going to be red-violet. Half red, half blue, which is going to be violet. This blue is a little gnarly. And then blue and a little bit of red, which is blue-violet. So I have those steps mixed up. I'm going to go from my warm color to my cool color, transitioning. I'm going to start with the lighter of the two. The lighter of the two in this case, I think, is red. Sometimes it's hard to tell a difference. So just red, whatever I start off with my transition, I want to make sure that the paint does not dry, that I am blending with wet paint. If I have too much paint for my transition, the color is just going to be, I call it take over. It's going to take over whatever you're painting or blending into. Let's see. And just blue. Which, I hate this just blue, but whatever. All right. So 3 different transitions, then you will explore. Exploring means you are going to just be making distinct brush strokes with your different sets of brushes to see what they can do. Does not matter the color. I want you to use pressure changes, short brush strokes. So I would say aim for, I don't know, 20 different brush strokes amongst all of your brushes. You're going to repeat some of them. What happens when you rotate your brush? What happens when you ease up? I do love these flat brushes. And that's my second brush. I have 2 more round brushes. Again, any color that you want. Ooh, these are nice round brushes. Oh, new brushes. They will never be as fabulous as they are today. So that was my 3rd brush. Here's my 4th brush. And then you can paint whatever you like on the rest of that.